So I've made it to Nordkapp. 13 days, 3,232 miles from Newcastle, and I'm here, and you can see the globe in the background, which just there, which shows the most northerly point in Europe there. So this is amazing. It really did feel like I was on top of the world. You know, I was the most northerly point I could be in Europe, and I was standing right on the edge of a cliff which just looks into the Arctic Ocean, and it did feel like I was on top of the world from a mental point of view, but then also a physical point of view, because I knew that my motorbike couldn't take me any further.
Okay, so a man from Whitley Bay is about to take his hobby to the extreme for charity. Gordon Stuart has given himself a whole year to prepare to bike across the Arctic. A long, cold and probably a very slippy journey.
Yeah, it was really tough leaving Whitley Bay knowing I was about to ride 6,000 miles to the Arctic. I'd been building it up for so long and talking about it. When it actually finally came, it was real mixed emotions. You know, I was really excited to go, but then also at the same time really kind of sad to leave my friends and family, and especially my pregnant wife Kirsty. I actually had a few kind of tears in the helmet as well as I left, because I just wasn't really, I don't think I was prepared for what was about to be ahead of me, you know. So this is it, leaving. Very upset. Let's go. Woohoo! And we're off. This is it, Arctic Circle, Arctic ride. I wish you could see the troop of bikers behind me, because it looks truly amazing. This is it. 6,000 miles to go. Unbelievable send off. Very wet today, very slippy. Yeah, the first day was awful really. I mean, I left Whitley Bay and the first hour or so was kind of dry, and then suddenly the clouds rolled over, and then it just absolutely tipped it down, like rain like I've never seen. It was like monsoon. And so the rain starts. And I kind of rode through it for 2 or 3 hours, but had to pull over a couple of times just because it was getting dangerous with the lorries on the road and the spray, and really kind of only had maybe 40 or 50 feet in front of me that I could see, and it's dangerous kind of riding a motorbike, you know, at that kind of speed, and it was really horrible. And I thought if that was things to come for the rest of the trip, I wasn't going to enjoy it too much. So here I am, I've arrived at Dover finally. After 9 hours in terrible weather and road conditions on the way down. Got all my tent set up, as you can see. This is my tent here. Got the bike all parked up. And feeling really strange actually. Doesn't actually feel like I'm doing it. It just feels like maybe I've gone on a trip for the weekend and I'll be going home tomorrow. But no, crossing over to France, which you might be able to see in the background. That's the sea there, White Cliffs of Dover and all. But yeah, it just hasn't really sunk in, but had a really good day today. Getting seen off by all the people down at the lighthouse, which was really fun, and made me feel really nice, to be honest. Missing Kirsty and that already, but obviously I've got a lot more of that to deal with, so. But no, yeah, it's been a really good day, and it was fun riding with Ant and Christy, and the first time I've done a long trip with them. But yeah, the road conditions were just really rubbish. But yeah, I'm at my campsite and I've got to be up at 5 in the morning because I'm doing some filming here before I get on my ferry. But yeah, no, really good first day. Only 3 people nearly wiped me out, so that's not very many compared to a usual 300-day ride. So yeah, really good. this is it, Dover, where I wait to board my ferry. I think it's that one, the DFDS one. This is it. Wow, what a lovely morning. The sun is shining. Hopefully it'll stay shining on me. This is it, ferry time. Straight on, yeah? This is it. Goodbye, England.
Okay, so a big challenge, as you say. Just tell us why you're doing it.
So I'm doing this to raise money for brain injury charity Cerebra. They've helped my little brother who suffered from a brain injury 15 years ago, giving him and my family excellent support, both through equipment and sort of counselling and things like that. So I really owe them a debt of gratitude. So I want to pay that back.
Growing up with Robbie, I mean, it's all I've ever known, so, it wasn't kind of difficult for me or anything, but I always knew that, my kind of family dynamic was slightly different to most people, and that Robbie's needs always had to come first. When he was just 9 months old, he was a near-miss cot death, so my mum actually found him in his cot one morning, not breathing, and, he got rushed to the hospital, and the medical teams up in Newcastle, did work on him, and as he stabilised in those first sort of couple of days, it became apparent that he'd suffered quite severe brain damage because of not breathing and the lack of oxygen to his brain. And the doctors really prepared my mum and my stepdad for the worst, and told us that Robbie would never probably lead a meaningful life. That he was blind after the brain damage, and he'd never see again, and that he'd never speak, and he'd need sort of really intensive care for the rest of his life. And as he's grown up, he sort of defied what doctors have actually said about him originally, and his brain's recovered a little bit, and now he's at the point where he can see again, and that he's actually got almost full speech now, which is absolutely amazing. And even though his cognitive age will never be more than about a 5 or a 6 year old, he still leads kind of a fulfilling life. When you think back kind of the 16 or 17 years ago when my mum was told that he would never speak or walk or talk, and the things that he does now is just amazing. And even though he's still kind of an annoying little brother, the same way that any little brother is, I always remind myself everything that he's gone through and how far he's come, and I'm just really proud of him for that. That second day when I really had to go through France and Belgium, Netherlands and Germany, all kind of really lovely countries and places I've been to before, but I really had my mind set on just getting there. I knew that day 2 and day 3 I was going to have to do really big miles, so it was just kind of head down, throttle on, just to get as far as I could through the countries. And I need to use this time effectively because I know the roads are going to be so much more challenging further on into Scandinavia. Yesterday, Newcastle, all the way down to Dover, crossed out to Dunkirk, followed it all the way through to Eindhoven, Duisburg, Isaan, Dortmund, and Dortmund up this number 1 here to Ondsbroek, and then I'm somewhere in here camped at the moment. I had wanted to get to near Bremen, but I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. But the plan is tomorrow to try and get to Landskrona, which is just past Copenhagen, just in Sweden, next to Malmö. But it's a really long ride. Here we go, day 3. So I'm off to Denmark and Sweden after riding through most of Germany. We'll try and ride through most of Germany today, so bike is all packed.
I went over some really big bridges. Like, never imagined bridges could be that long. So this was between Denmark and Sweden, and I think one of them was something like 15 kilometers long, which is just mad to go over a bridge that long. But the thing with it on a motorbike is the wind that you get coming off the water. I was almost riding at kind of like 25-30 degree angle, being pushed over by the wind, which was quite scary as well, because you got lorries bombing past you, and obviously the kind of fear of the wind suddenly changes. Then you're out to the side of the road and there's kind of water one side or lorries the other side. So yeah, it was a bit hair-raising.
So it's the morning of day 4 in Sweden, heading up to Norway. I woke up with what feels like a hangover, just didn't sleep well at all. It was really cold last night, the ground was really uncomfortable, just couldn't get right in my sleeping bag, so not really feeling great. And after just doing 3 days of really long mileage, I've got to do one more really big day to get me up to Oslo. But it's important because it's the last kind of stretch of motorway. But yeah, just feeling a bit down, to be honest. Got a bit of a horrible email last night from someone as well, sort of discounting why I'm doing the trip and all this sort of thing, which doesn't really make you feel very nice. But I know I've had lots of support as well, which is kind of what's keeping me going. But yeah, just really annoying when I've put in 3 really long days and then someone comes and emails me and tells me, you know, what I'm doing isn't a good thing. So but I'm going to try and keep my spirits up. I've got some porridge, which I'm just heating my water up in the little stove in the service block. So I'm going to have that this morning, which will hopefully give me the drive to push on to Oslo, which is another 360 miles. I've done about 130 miles. It's really cold. The sun's out, it's glorious weather, but I worked out, I looked at my map, and I'm as far north as Aberdeen now, and it's just really cold. The wind's really cold, so I'm going to put my waterproof suit on just to keep me warm, and hopefully be in Oslo later on this evening. So it's day 4 PM, got all the camp set up, got my bike and my pasta cooking, and I got the tent there. Really good ride up today, made really good time. It's kind of really sinking in what I'm doing now. I've just spent the last 4 days riding to Oslo, which is absolutely mental, but then I've got to go and do like another 8-9 days to get up to, something like that, to get up to Nordkapp, which is mental. I'm not even nowhere near halfway there, and I've been riding flat out for 4 days, but it's really good. Missing home and stuff. Haven't had a proper conversation with anyone apart from intermittent conversations with some people in kind of broken English, broken German.
What's going to be the hardest thing for you then? Is it, the physical challenge, or is it the psychological challenge of being out there on the road by yourself?
I mean, that is going to be one of the biggest challenges, I think, the psychological thing. I attempted this trip back in 2011 and actually had a crash, so I didn't make it all the way there. But one of the things I really struggled with was sort of human company, really. When you're on the road by yourself for such a long time, it can really get to you when you've got no one to share your problems or, successes with. I'd written down in my diary, and it's something that I looked at every day, was just to try and remember that it was only for a sort of limited period that I was going to be on my own. And I counteracted that as well by meeting up with different people along the way, and that kept me busy, and it kind of kept me away from the loneliness as well. And I try and, if I was at campsites, if there was other bikers there or other people there, I'd just try and go and chat to them, because it kind of takes the loneliness out of your mind. Even though I was very lonely on the ride, and sometimes in your helmet, it's difficult to, not to think about things back home and get lonely. But it certainly was tough lying in your tent at night, being really uncomfortable and sort of missing everything back home.
Day 5, Wednesday morning. Just left Oslo and meeting my friend Hans, services outside Oslo, to go and do some riding with us to head up north. and Norway is unbelievable. I mean, I'm maybe 15 miles outside the city, and I've just ridden along this waterfront, over the big mountain at the back there, through loads of tunnels, and then down just along past this fjord, and this is just absolutely beautiful. And it's such a lovely day, and I know it's not always like this in Norway, but wow, if the rest of the road's like this, I mean, I've got 200 odd miles to do, and I haven't even got out of fourth gear. Like, I've not got higher than fourth gear today, and this is just amazing. So you can see the bike there as well, and he's probably relieved, because I'm doing, you know, just under 1,500 miles of motorways, and then to come onto this is just superb. And just hopefully the weather stays good, and I'll have a good run all the way up to Nordkapp. But if it's like this all the way, I don't think I'll ever come home. I'll have to fly Kirsty out here and always come and live here. So I've just finished riding with Hans, went over a mountain pass which was amazing, got to dance in the snow, got down to like 4 degrees when we were up there, it's so really cold. Yeah, I had a really good time, you know, drove past a couple of waterfalls, a hotel which looked like it was off The Shining, it was really good, and we dropped back down into this amazing fjord, and I'm on my way to Otta, right on the 15 there, but this is just fabulous. So I've got another 30 or 40 miles to get there, so I need to press on so I can get my tent up and get blogging and things like that. But this is, yeah, it's fantastic.
So it's day 5, evening. Just pulled up in Otta, also known as Otta in Norway. Got another 200 miles up from Oslo today. And where I'm camped, you can see the bike there. Come and look at this. Got a stream, well, a river, and then the mountains as well.
So it's about 5:30 in the morning, day 6. It was really cold last night, camping up in the mountains. I checked the forecast and it said it was supposed to be 9 or 10 degrees, but it must have been below freezing last night. It was really cold. I've got a -5 sleeping bag with all my thermals on. I thought I'd be fine, but I woke up at about 3 in the morning, just really cold and just couldn't warm up. As you can see by the light behind me, the sun has come up and now my tent is roasting. So I'm going to get a little bit more sleep before it gets too hot. Just can't win either way. It's either too hot or too cold at the moment with the sun.
So it's about 9 AM now. I've managed to get a bit more sleep. The sun came up and really warmed up the tent, so yeah, slept till from about 5:30 till 9, so feeling loads better. That was just so awful last night. I think it's because even though we've had all this warm weather, it's unseasonably warm, meaning the nights are still as cold as they normally are, and it's still May in Norway. This is the problem, and I've been warned about the temperatures anyway. But yeah, it must have been minus last night. It was so cold, even though I've got a good sleeping bag and thermals on. It was just far too cold. If it's going to be like this every night, I don't know how I'm going to keep going because I'll be so tired.
So I met up with a guy called Lars who lives in Trondheim in kind of central Norway. And I think the relationship with Lars came out of an email that I sent to the Norwegian Motorbike Union, and their president kind of reached out to some of the local branches and let them know that I was doing the ride, up to Nordkapp. And then some of them got back in contact and kind of said, either we want to ride with you some of the way or we can find a bed for the night. And Lars was he did both of those. He was really kind and sort of showed me through the Trondheim region where Trondheim is. And then he took me in for the night and had a barbecue with me and all his biker buddies. And that was just amazing, and that just came out of one email that I sent, and it was he kind of epitomized the Norwegian people because they're so friendly and welcoming.
So it's day 7,
So I'm 1 week through my Arctic ride. I'm currently near a place called I Rana, which is about 100 miles south of the Arctic Circle. And today I set off from Trondheim, drove through a town called Hell. So I've been to Hell and beyond, as it were. As I got into northern Norway, met up with the guy Havlard, who's from the motorbike club up here in Helgeland, and also met up with Roy, who's the chairman as well, and they rode with me all the way up to near I Rana, and very kindly gave me this cabin, which you can see here. So they paid for this, well, the motorbike club paid for this for the evening. So I've got a bed, which is nice, and somewhere to do the laptop and do the blog and things like that. If I look at the time, it's 10 to midnight, and I'll show you what it looks like outside. That's what it looks like. Beautiful view, and you can see the bike there. But the sun doesn't go down. The sun does not go down. It's still difficult traveling alone. It's been nice to meet up with some of the motorbike clubs and chat to some people and have some kind of meaningful conversation rather than just saying thanks at a petrol station. And that sort of raised my spirits, and same with all the support which is coming from back home. But it's gone well so far, and touch wood, the weather stays the same and the roads stay the same, and if they do, then I should make it up to Nordkapp.
So it was day 8, I think, that I crossed over into the Arctic Circle, and that was an amazing feeling. Even though my end destination was Nordkapp, right in the north of Norway, reaching the Arctic Circle and where the Arctic ride really started was just fantastic. And again, a bit emotional, and I'm not kind of usually like that, you know, but just when I was climbing up the mountain pass, which is where you past the Arctic, and I saw they've got the Arctic Circle Centre, which is where I was stopping for a cup of coffee. It was really emotional, and then when I finally pulled the bike up there, it just felt amazing, almost a feeling that I've never really had before.
So hi everyone, so I've made it to the Arctic Circle. A week after setting off from Newcastle, fighting the rain this time last week, I'm now here at the Arctic Circle, so it feels really good. It's really cold here. Where I'm passing is on the top of a mountain, so it's really got the Arctic climate here. But yeah, it feels amazing to have ridden my motorbike all this way. It doesn't actually quite feel real that I'm here. I've been dreaming of this moment for the last 14 months since planning it, so it's absolutely fantastic. And you can see the snow, the scenery, and then in behind is the Arctic Circle Centre there. And now the next milestone is Nordkapp in about 4 or 5 days, so I've got to ride more through the mountains, and it's going to get colder and colder, but it's been worth every second of it to get here.
Once you start getting up the north of Norway, what are the roads like up there?
So the first sort of 1,500 miles to Oslo is completely motorway, but once I get north of Oslo, the roads become a lot more challenging, and really even the main routes that go up through Norway are equivalent to our B roads, so very challenging, especially with the weather that can happen up there.
So it's the morning of day 9. I stayed last night with German guy Joachim and Norwegian lady Marie in this house. Although it felt really weird last night. It didn't. I don't know. Something just felt really odd and didn't feel very safe. It felt like that film Misery. But yeah, well, they haven't murdered me yet. But yeah, no, it just didn't. Very strange people, but really nice of them to take me in. But it's the morning now, and I've got the bike in this garage anyway. So I'm just packing it up and heading up to the Lofoten Isles, which is supposed to be area of natural beauty up here in Norway. So I'm gonna ride on up to there. So it's day 9. I'm in northern Norway, somewhere between Bodo and Narvik.
and it's been really raining this morning, going through loads and loads of tunnels through the fjords. And then I came out of one tunnel to blue skies and in this absolutely fantastic view, which is mountains, fjord, lake, snow, all the lovely trees. And sort of just took a moment, and feels like I'm living the dream which I've been having for the last 14 months of planning this trip. Still doesn't really feel real that I'm doing it after so much planning, so I thought I'd stop and just take a moment. And obviously, you know, miss my family, miss being back home, but at the same time enjoying being on the road so far. And I've still got, you know, a long way to go to get to Nordkapp and then turn around home again. So I'm just, you know, hoping that I make it up there all right. But I just thought this was magical. The beauty of this country just never ceases to amaze me, and I almost can't believe how much there is of this. The whole kind of 2,000 miles up of the country just looks the same. Just look at that. It's absolutely beautiful.
When I got up into Tromso, right in the north of Norway, I decided I wanted to have a rest day. And I was lucky enough when I was in Tromso, a guy called Geir and his family, who were from the motorbike club there, kind of took me in and let me stay with them, which was fantastic as well. And it was really nice just to have a rest and not really ride the bike. That day when I rode from Tromso to Alta, that was a big day, but certainly when you get there, there seems to be a lot of people use Alta as a stopping point before they go up to Nordkapp. But the strange thing about Alta was, when I looked on a map before I left, it seemed like it was just next door to Nordkapp, but then it was actually a 4-hour ride.
I'm almost there, 31 kilometers, 20 something miles. So this is it.
Day 13, I made it to Nordkapp. It was a really strange experience, very difficult to describe. Once I got into the Nordkapp commune, I knew I was only 30 or 40 miles away.
It's so windy, I'm riding almost sideways. Look at the lean on the bike. If I went straight, I'd end up just going, look, the other side of the road. Jesus hell.
The closer I got to Nordkapp, the more and more worried I was about things going wrong, and I would have been so gutted and upset if I'd got, you know, a couple of 100 miles away and then not made it, so the pressure was really on then.
Oh, look at this. 19 kilometers left. Wow.
You ride up a big mountain pass to get there, and the emotions were kind of running high, and then I pulled up to this little booth where you have to go and pay your few Norwegian kroner to get in. And then I rode the bike up to where they've got a little tourist centre there and got off it and realised I'd made it. And again, I was really, really emotional, but then so really proud of myself at the same time.
3,232 miles.
I'd ridden the whole way from Newcastle all the way to Nordkapp on my motorbike, and that was just an amazing, amazing feeling. I ended up staying there for a couple of hours because I almost couldn't bring myself to leave. I'd been planning the trip for so long, and almost everything I've been doing with my life outside of work and family stuff had been to do with my Arctic ride. And it was a kind of a bit of a sad feeling because I was like, well, once I leave, then it's over. It almost felt like, well, what's next, you know? I found it really tough knowing that I had to get home and knowing that I didn't have that thing to look forward to of getting to Nordkapp and having those emotions, and that it was just getting home was really, really tough, and I got really down for a couple of days. It was doing it day after day and getting more and more tired and trying to stay alert, and that was really, really tough. Knowing I had just over a week to make that mileage up, it was really daunting, and I really knew I was going to have to push myself to make sure that I was alert so I could get south and get home on time. It was a really long way home. You know, I kind of looked at the number of miles that I'd done when I was up in Nordkapp and realised I had to do that again, and it's a really long way to ride a motorbike. The roads on the way back were the really kind of fun thing for me and is what kept me motivated. There was quite a few things from a motorbike point of view that I'd really missed out when I was going north through Norway because I had that goal of making it to Nordkapp. In sort of western central Norway, there's some amazing roads to go and see. So I rode the Atlantic Road, and it goes across loads of little islands, and the kind of wind blowing on you, and you feel the sea air, and that was really, really fun to ride. And then also did the Trollstigen past the Troll's Ladder, which is 11 hairpin bends in a row, and that was just so much fun.
It is absolutely just one amazing turn after another. And it creeps up past an amazing waterfall, and then all the way up again and again, just so many bends. And you have to take them so slowly. Really chuffed to have done that. It's a good experience. Really enjoyed it. So nice treat on the way back home for me riding anyway, to come and do the Trollstigen. Real treat. Really enjoyed it.
I kind of felt a bit more free than I did on the way up. On the way back, I could really enjoy the roads, and if I wanted to take that little bit extra time or go back and ride a road again, I really could. Went and visited Geiranger Fjord as well, which is just an absolutely amazing piece of nature. I wasn't quite prepared for how splendid it was going to look. I'd seen the pictures of the fjords, before I'd left. But when I actually was riding the road alongside Geiranger Fjord, it was just truly amazing. Almost you can't imagine that nature's actually made that. It looks as though someone's just carved out, a massive V shape in a mountain. And you realise how big it was when you've got, a cruise liner which is the size of kind of a big hotel, and it looks like an absolute dot in the middle of a fjord, and it was truly spectacular, and just nature at its absolute best. I've absolutely fallen in love with Norway. It's an amazing, amazing country. It's not just the scenery, it's the people. Everyone that I met, and that includes the people that were kind enough to let me, stay with them, or the bikers who rode with me, but even just the kind of regular Joe on the street. Everyone's just so friendly. I never felt intimidated at all, wherever I was. And yeah, it was just how welcoming the people were.
So this is it, the last day of the trip. I'm in northeastern Netherlands, and I've got to travel across pretty much the whole of the country west to go past Amsterdam and go to the ferry port to get my ferry back to Newcastle. Had a really long day yesterday, 550 mile day, so I'm still pretty tired from that. But I knew I needed to push on to make sure I had good time to get to the ferry.
I went to go and catch the ferry from Amsterdam back to Newcastle, and that was a really strange experience. I sort of pulled the bike up, got it on the ferry and went into my cabin, And I kind of sat there, and that was the point when it really felt over, because this was actually the end of the ride. And I spent a lot of time just kind of sitting and reflecting on what had happened and some of the experiences I've gone through.
So this is it, I'm back in Newcastle. The ferry's just pulling in now, North Shields. And then the trip's over. It's been great, and I'm really excited to be home. So it's been a really long time. It feels like a really long time. So I need to go and get the bike ready one last time, pack my things I had on the ferry, and then get going. But it's been good.
Being on the bike is kind of a great place of solace for me. It's my time where I really reflect on everything that's happened. It's different to being in a car and having the radio on and chatting. I really just, a lot of the time, sit there on the bike and reflect about things. And it was kind of, at one point on that day, I realised that I've got everything that I wanted to in life. I was almost at a point where everything I'd imagined when I was growing up, it kind of happened, you know. I had a wife who's pregnant, and I've always wanted an amazing family, and she's like just my absolute perfect person in the whole world. I had a great job. I really like what I do, you know, and it gives me enough money to pay the bills and live in a nice house and have a nice motorbike that I want to ride. And the point about the motorbike as well is I realised I was riding my dream motorbike ever since I could remember. When I was growing up and going to motorbike shows with my dad, I always wanted a Suzuki 650, and I wanted to have touring boxes on it, and I wanted to just ride around Europe and really enjoy it. And I realised that's what I was doing, you know, that kind of dream, I'd accomplished it. And it was such an amazing moment to realise that, and all the things that you kind of sometimes worry about back home that are actually so insignificant, because I've got the things that I want in life. And there's almost, you know, someone could have come to me at that point and offered me £1 million, and I'd have said, well, I don't need it, I've got everything that I need. And it's really strange. I try not to be too philosophical, because it kind of freaks me out sometimes, but it was just an amazing place to be in. And almost part of me thought, well, you know, if there is a heaven, then I've already lived it, and that's an amazing feeling.